misunderstood what your comment was about the 7,000. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff, on the alternate building material requests, when a contractor comes in and they want to do an alternate material, isn't that all under a code?
The code allows for the building official to use the discretion based on the knowledge of the trades and the presentation of the type of construction material that would be alternate materials. Only the building official in the jurisdiction can approve alternate materials. So it would take the research of, for instance, some years ago when the styrofoam cells, masonry walls came into our county and some other stress panel with insulation, we had to do the research on those things to find out if we were going to have the reports that would substantiate the use in the types of construction that they were being proposed for. It doesn't happen very often. It's pretty unlikely that we would have very many of these, but it does occur. And with the new green building standards coming up, there's a possibility that we will see some materials that will be on the request for those kinds of alternate materials.
That are not in the code.
That's correct. In a standard construction setting.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So the one other new fee that you don't have on that under that headline, it came down toward the bottom of the second page, is the permit extension fee. It's on the back of the front page, and it's down there about, look at number 86.
So $75 from zero?
That's correct. What we've had in the past was a code only allowed one extension, unless there's extenuating circumstances. The new code, the 2007 California code based off the IBC codes, does not limit the number of inspections. It's up to the jurisdiction to determine how many inspections or extensions on the permit can be warranted. So we usually get the request in writing. Typically, what I would like to do is have the first request, after the inspection. Let me back up real quick to give you an idea how long this could take for somebody to actually take action on a permit. Once you submit your plans, you have a year to pick them up. After that year, you have 6 months to do anything before you get an inspection. There's a year and a half. And then if we grant the next inspection, there's 2 years before we've even set foot on the project. And it's extended under the old permit that allows us to conceivably go on and on and on. Currently, we charge no fees for extensions at all. What would be in stride with the industry would be to charge a fee for the extension beyond the first extension, which would be $75. And other counties charge considerably more than that. I have a list of several that I don't know if you want to hear them, but typically most of the other jurisdictions that I've talked to do charge something, 75 being the low end, all the way up to $200 in some cases for extensions beyond the first one. And in some cases, they don't allow any extensions beyond the third one. So it's all jurisdiction, how they want to put that together. It's discretionary.
We don't allow them over 3 either, do we?
No, currently we can allow any number of extensions if the permit is still under a valid
So the
time
one
frame.
that I called you on with that longtime general contractor in Arnold, his permit expired and he had done nothing to extend it.
That's correct.
So
An expiration would require a new, in some cases, a new submittal, but it would have to be, an extension is different than a expired permit.
right. So what is it that you're doing for $75?
Well, we have the file. We retrieve the file. We have to go into Permits Plus. We have to update it. We have to research it to see what is going on with that particular permit. We receive the correspondence from whoever's requesting that. We validate the information. We go through a process to assure that we can actually do the extension as prescribed by the code. So this would be every 6 months. So in the meantime, we have to, for Steve, for instance, he'll go into these files and send out warning letters ahead of time. Your permit's about to expire, please respond. And in the past, that hasn't been done, so consequently, we ended up with roughly 3,000 or more than that permits that no action was taken at all. And we're still dealing with those. So to stay ahead of that kind of a problem, we've been able to come up with some mechanism that we haven't been charging for to keep people informed of to what the status of their permits are.
So we're taking responsibility for their projects by telling them their permits.
We feel an obligation to notify the people that we are the proprietor of their permit and that they have not taken action, or if they have, we would like to keep abreast to what their activities are. If they haven't done anything, to let them know that it's going to cost a lot more to reinstate it than it does to do the extension.
It's like a newspaper subscription telling you.
Correct. Yeah, your driver's license, whatever. So those are my new fees.
That extension would be for another 6 months, or is that?
That's correct. Yeah. Yes, 6 months. So each extension would have a lifespan of 6 months, and then the next extension would have a similar, it's consecutive to 6 months. Now, if we decide that becomes too hard to manage, we could put a ceiling on the number of extensions.
Jeff, why 6 months? Why not a year?
Well, it would take a resolution by the board to change that from the code, because the code has typically had a 6-month lifespan.
So it's 1 year, 6 months.
To the
6 months thereafter.
Yeah, the 180-day is the typical cycle, and that's basically on our documents.
So this would be, the 75 would be on the second extension, the third extension, fourth, fifth, whatever.
Correct.
So do you see a need to change that from 6 months to a year? And then does that impact how they build according to the building code?
Well, one of the problems that could come up is the code cycle change, and then once code cycles change, we might have a code that is very different from the codes that the permit was issued under. So I think when the codes were adopted, the 180-day time frame was designed to prohibit those kinds of problems, or at least reduce those kinds of problems that could come up.
You said you had currently 3,000 permits that...
At one time, we had 3,000 or more permits that had gone stale due to lack of any process that we now currently have in place. So
how many do you have in this state now? And I'm assuming some of them are various states. Some of them where somebody started, probably got their first inspection, it's just a slab, it's sitting there. Or they've got a shell sitting there, they haven't completed the interior or something like that. So that's various stages.
Yeah, it runs the gamut. We have a mixed bag of all kinds of things. We can go back to 1978 on finals. There were houses that weren't final, the fifth buyer, and that kind of thing. And then we have those are the ones that are really hard to deal with. You have to research the code to find out what that era was. Then Steve has been very diligent in keeping up with what we have currently, so we don't fall into that trap again, which becomes a huge burden on the staff to try and deal with these things that are existing, and to add to that would be virtually insane. So we're trying to stop that practice that has caused us some problems in the past.
Okay.
Is there anything?
Those would be under the category of new fees. The rest of all
new fees, because I have to excuse myself. I don't think I have a problem with your new fees. I think we should look at a maximum number of extensions. I don't think you should be able to just extend indefinitely going out.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
I don't know what the maximum should be, and I would leave that for you to make a recommendation to the board. But
Yes, I've done a few
I
surveys
think there
to...
should be a maximum. Otherwise, we just end up with an old workload that just goes back forever, and, everything has changed, and we're trying to do the codes, I guess, under which they took out the permits, and it just gets...
It's problematic.
It just gets to be a lot of hard feelings and very difficult to manage.
We have had some generosity based on the problem with the current economy, which, that's self-evident. But
quite frankly, if you look at the building, the stuff coming through, which gets on to your next issue, there's lots of remodels that are going on right now because most people can't afford a new home, and new homes aren't selling, and because you can buy basically the same thing considerably less than replacement cost. And as long as you can buy less than replacement cost, there's no reason to build something new. But I'm concerned about all of your other fees in here as to how that's going to impact building activity in the county. And
well,
I think Steve has a lot of my same concerns, and I'll check with you probably tomorrow. I'm out of county Thursday, but probably tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah, I'll be in Merced tomorrow at a training, but I'll be around the Friday.
I'll check with Jeannie to see where the board left it, but I am very concerned about the remaining fees.
Yes, we have a pretty good explanation that should help considerably on what we're going to address.
Jeannie, and I'll see if she can bedazzle me.
Yeah. Okay.
Before you leave, Supervisor Tryon. Supervisor Tryon, I'd like to ask a quick question here. Madam Chairman, logistically, I've got maybe 50 or 60 questions about these different building fees. And I also am poring over this fee structure. I'm very concerned about some fees I've been hearing about in Public Works, and I don't see any Public Works fees on this schedule.
I think these are just fees to be changed from the current fee schedule. I've had a lot of people, I called a couple of people that have really beaten me up on planning fees, but they didn't show up, so I don't know what to tell you. But I think planning and public work fees are a significant issue out there.
What I'm suggesting is that if we have this opportunity to look at fees, why not terminate this discussion now, because you have to leave, and it's 5 o'clock, but bring back when we go into our next opportunity to talk about this, bring back the public works fees and the planning fees.
We could continue the study session, which I think makes some sense at this time. I'd really like all of us to hear, especially since Tom and I are thinking alike on this.
If I could preface, I know Tom has to leave, but if I could do a quick preface with Steve's help, it could shed a lot of light on what we're talking about with it has to do with a miscellaneous screen and how the fees aren't necessarily structured properly, which we have to go through the fields to get the what's missing in place. So this falls right into the Maximus study and how the board adopted on May 13th, 2008, the resolution that granted the authority to recover reasonably borne costs provided the building permit services. So, having said that, we've had 2 years to deal with Permits Plus. We do have a problem with miscellaneous applications of Permits Plus, which is the list you have in front of you. And I'd like to ask Steve to come up because he's very well acquainted and he can put a real quick thumbnail sketch on what the problem is and what we're proposing to fix the problem, with one additional caveat to that. And if you'd like to listen to what we'd like to present to you for the next 4 or 5 minutes, I think it would be pretty valuable for you to get an understanding.
Well, if it's truly invaluable, then all of us should hear it. And I have the same sentiments that Russ just expressed, so I don't know if there's a third on that subject, but I think we could continue this to next meeting, although we seem to have a busy...
We have a pretty busy June, maybe after budget,
right.
Mid-June, late June.
Well, it's sort of part of the budget discussion.
Yes.
I mean, the reason we do have this beforehand is so that people can make their plans. And I imagine in this department that's pretty significant. And I do not want to continue the discussion with only 4 of us present, and late in the game with 60 questions coming from Russ and at least a couple from me, I'd say
Probably got
we're...
60 coming from me also, and I'm not sure his explanation is
But
going
I
to
think what
answer.
I think what Jeff is saying is there is some explanation for some of it. Do we want to hear it now? What I'm hearing Steve say is let's postpone this.
I want Tom to hear it, too.
No offense to staff. How do you want?
I would like to postpone it and have Tom here also, and then it would give me some time to ask, because I stopped you in the hallway today and we had a short conversation about this structure, and I think including planning and public works fees also would be beneficial to all of us if it's going to be a study session, so we can discuss all of the fees.
Shirley, do you want to address planning and public works?
When we return with the continuation of the study session, we can bring back the full master fee schedule, and that way, if you have questions regarding any fees that are not up for change, and you want to address those to the department heads, that would certainly give you the opportunity to do so. Also, just so you know, when the department submitted their budgets, they submitted it with the information they currently have as far as the fee structures go. So depending on what your actions are as far as moving forward with fees or not, that can be addressed between proposed and final budget. With the exception of those that are being charged by statute or government code that you have no oversight over.
I'm sorry, thank you. So building department's budget is based on what exists, not on this.
Yes.
Right.
Beyond the
Correct.
first part of the discussion was the new fees. The rest is established fee structure, which needs some repair work.
And needs repair work.
That's correct. Think of it as a leaking bathtub. The water coming in isn't matching the water going out, and we have a leak, and the leak is what we want to talk about.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Jeannie, the only one, it's just a minor item, but the CD copies that Jeff proposed, different departments charge different things. Remember, we set up 25 cents a copy or whatever, so all departments were charging the same thing. I don't know if we need to do that for CD copies. I think it depends on what's involved, but just the copy itself, and maybe at a department head meeting or whatever, you all can talk about that. I mean, it could be that they should be different. It's just they become like paper copies. Okay. Anything else for Mr. White while he's here? And he'll wear his flak jacket next time.
Just to give you kind of a heads up on what I'm concerned about is looking at these fee structures where you talk about the inspection fee for something that's from 1,200 square feet up to 1,500 square feet, and you have a kind of a modifier that says it's $63 per $100 for anything over 1,250. Well, if you just do the arithmetic and you go from 1,250 up to 1,500, if you've got a differential that would add $158 using that $63 per 100 to going from 1,250 to 1,501. So going that way for 1,501 square feet, you should charge, using that formula, $374. However, in the fee structure, you're up to like $700 or something for, and there's no mathematical progression that is sort of mystifying to me.
And, yeah, those are some of the things in the miscellaneous screens that we have trouble with too, and those are some of the things that we need to address, and we have we have some ideas that would be better for the efficiency of operating with the problems we have with the miscellaneous screen. For instance, and this is from the Maximus study, this is all Maximus numbers that we're using, and one of the problems that Maximus came out with was on one charge, and we have a sheet that we'll show you the next time, $15 for a carport, period. $15. So we would go do the plan check, we'd do all of the reviews, we'd do whatever construction documents, we would do all the inspections, all the driving back and forth to the carport for $15. So that is one of the examples of the types of problems that we're having with a miscellaneous screen that we want to propose that we do some adjustments to how it's set up so we can get a better efficiency and better numbers for how those screens are giving us the problems that it's giving us now.
Okay.
Okay, well, everybody better get their carport done right now.
Yeah, and if it's 1% on
You have a
permits
fire
plus,
sale.
it's 15 cents for permits plus.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walensky? did
Yeah,
you
I'll
have
just give you a
something?
quick summary so that you can think about this between now and whenever we get together again. But garages, room additions, and sunrooms seem to be issues that I'd sure like to hear about, because that's what's going on in my district, and it looks like there's some huge changes in those three categories, and I hope we'll have some discussion about how we justify the additions, besides the fact that we're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and that is our same concern is just exactly what you're mentioning, and it goes right back to the way the fee schedule was set up that we need to work on.
All right, well, we're looking forward to that
So
work.
what you're saying
We are
is
too.
we need to correct some misunderstandings that were done 2 years ago.
That's correct. And after we've had enough time to test fly it now to see where the problems are.
Okay, thank you, Mr. White.
Can I prepay a bunch of money for the $15?
How many carports do you want?
Carports, and then use
As
them?
long as how big are they and how big are you going to connect them?
Oh,